Liz and Mike from 105.1 The Buzz joining us live right now. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Okay, so Beyonce is on a world tour right now, and the Beyhive apparently now has the power to cause inflation.
Oh my gosh.
What is going on?
Yeah, Sweden. There's a lot of people there that are blaming their inflation on Beyonce. And, you know, I've blamed inflation on a lot of things the last few months. Never thought to blame it on Beyonce or a pop star or anything like that. But there's because she came and performed, you know, in Stockholm alone, she did 2 shows with 46,000 people. You know, by doing that, a lot of people were trying to get hotels, restaurants. And so since there was such a demand in services, everything surged. And long story short, their inflation right now is 9.7%. And there's some folks saying, well, that's because Beyonce came to town.
I guess I want to know but you see this stuff, like, is it inflation or just like surge pricing, right? Where, like, you know, if Beyonce comes to Portland, hotels around the Moda Center are about to get more expensive. Like, that's just how that would work. So is inflation the right word? Is she going to be there for a while?
I mean, my biggest experience with inflation is at the grocery store, which I don't think that concerts really are affecting. So I've never looked at a bag of Doritos and been like, Beyonce, this is your fault.
Yeah.
But, like,
Ranch
I don't
Doritos.
know. Yeah, like, I'm not the one to know, like, the technical whatever, but that's what the economists are saying. There was, like, a article, I want to say it was in the it was one of the Washington somethings where they were talking about it. And then other people are saying, you can't blame Beyonce for this. She's bringing money in, it's tourism, it's all these extra dollars.
Yeah.
But I just think it's funny to just randomly declare something responsible for inflation.
Problem. I will say, I mean, I got a D in macroeconomics in college, so don't ask me about inflation. But I did see a story about some Americans actually going over to Europe for her concerts because tickets were so hard to get here in the States, and they were so expensive that there were actually a couple cases where, you know, folks on the East Coast were doing the math and figuring out it was cheaper to get flights and concert tickets in a European city and go stay over there for a couple days to go to her show than it was to get flights to an American city and go to a concert here in the States.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Emily. Now, let's think about this situation a little bit. If Beyonce's driving inflation like that in Sweden, her tour hasn't even come to the U.S. yet. Haven't we suffered enough for the past 2 years with these egg prices? When she gets here, it's about to go haywire.
Oh,
we're not going to have any eggs when Beyonce comes back.
You're not going to be able to afford even the tiniest of omelets. I guess just look at those, you know, Beyonce concert dates for the U.S. and don't plan any vacations around that.
Oh,
right? My goodness.
All right. Well, Netflix is getting into the pop-up restaurant business. How is this working?
This is actually really cool. So they have tons of cooking shows on Netflix. And sometimes you're looking at it and you're like, that looks delicious. I want to try that. And so they're doing one on June 30th in LA, where basically you can watch the show and then they're going to have food curated to match what you're watching on Netflix in this restaurant. I'm sure it's going to be ridiculously expensive, but they're going to have different famous chefs that like curate the menu based on what they did in the episode. And then the same with people with the mixed drinks. And then it's like, as you watch it, you get to eat and taste what you're seeing.
Oh.
That's an interesting concept, actually.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen restaurants that have themed their like menu to a movie, like based on a scene. Like there's people, and I'm sure it's done illegally, where it's like Beauty and the Beast, and they'll have you try the gray stuff when it gets to that part and be our guest. But this is like actually with food cooking shows where you've been seeing the food.
That's kind of cool.
That is cool.
That would be a fun way to experience it. I was trying to think of like a dish from a recent show that I really want to try. And it's not a Netflix show, but the first one that popped into my mind was that show on Hulu, The Bear.
I have no idea.
And it's like this famous spaghetti and meatballs recipe. I really want to try that spaghetti. If someone could make that, that would be great.
I would like to try everything made on the most recent season of Iron Chef, which
you go.
is on Netflix. So I have a high bar.
I will say, based on the fact that Netflix won't let us share passwords or share anything, I'm sure they've trademarked this idea and they won't share it with Hulu.
Do you think there's going to be a sharing fee at the restaurant? Like if you split plates, there's an additional charge. One household per order.
In your household, that plate is from clearly a different household.
You got to be in the same zip code.
As long as they're not giving us food curated by Nailed It, I am good with that because that food looks terrible half the time. But
yeah.
this is really smart. Think about how many people watch Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives on the Food Network and then go seek out those restaurants to try and go tackle them. So if you can implement TV from Netflix and a food destination, it's a win-win.
Yeah,
I could see this being a pretty successful pop-up.
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. Good idea.
All right, thanks, you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, friends.
Bye, guys.
Don't forget, you can listen to Liz and Mike every weekday morning on 105.1 The Buzz.